Welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with Bridget Stewart. And my guest today is Coco Marie Vargas. She is a real estate agent, a real estate investor in Austin, Texas. Coco, thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too, because we're actually jumping into a topic that's so powerful. We're going to talk about the power of habits. And I know from what you've shared with me that you have really embraced the power of habits in your business and even in your life from what you've shared. So could you tell everyone that's listening, what do habits mean to you? And what does that power of habits mean to you?
So the power of habits really mean freedom for me, because they essentially segue my day and day activity. So without habits, I do feel more scattered. I do feel a little bit more lost throughout my day. So implementing habits in my personal life and business has really set me up for more freedom just in regards to mental clarity, just the direction I want to go to live
Right.
my higher self. So that's truly what the power of habits mean to me.
I think that's incredible because I know there's some people that resist habits because they think it takes away their freedom. So I'd love that you started right out of the gate with having habits because let's all address it. Having a habit means you have structure, right? And you have certain things that you're going to do. And for you, that's actually created more freedom than when you did not have habits. So what would you say to address that? So if someone is sitting there going like, what is she talking about? When you've got habits, you're constricted, you don't have freedom. Can you explain a little bit more how you discovered that? How did you discover, or when did you feel that, oh, wait a minute, when I have habits, I actually have more freedom?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just such very different micro moments. So whether it be within my personal life or just a small micro moment within my business. So like, for example, because of the work I'm in, which is real estate, the most important thing for me to take care of is my mental health
Yes.
and overall health, because I'm constantly dealing with emotions, stressful situations. And so one of the key sort of lighthouses for me is to care for my mental health. So this micro moment came up for me where I was, getting burnt out with just everything that's involved within my day to day and especially work and carrying that home with me. And so, I really had to sit with like, how can I take care of myself? Like, what kind of habits can I implement and how can I show up for myself in order to have a ripple effect throughout my day? And one of
Right.
these habits that, sort of came into fruition was just doing a daily walk. So every morning, I love mornings because it's, the only time throughout the day where there's not a whole lot of chaos. I
Right.
kind of have control over my day and it's, not, I don't have very many people contacting me early in the morning. So
Right.
that's where I set up my day. But I think really that habit was kind of a tipping point into just how I want to structure my day. And it really helped me plan and lay out my different habits through all the different buckets of my life.
It is amazing the power of having a morning routine and a morning ritual. I know we all know that. We hear that over and over. And now that you discovered that and having that morning walk, I think you're right. You're setting yourself up where you are taking care of your own self physically and mentally right at the start of the day. And that's going to give you the clarity of mind and the strength and the self perspective that you can be strong for your clients all through the day. And boy, you're right. Anyone in real estate knows that you're not going to have that same quiet time in the evening because so many of our clients are working 9 to 5 types of careers. So that hour, like right around 4:30 to 6:30, if you're a busy agent, you're going to really have a lot of interaction, and you're going to need to still have the energy at that time of day to be there for those clients. So that you are right that the peacefulness first thing in the morning is just such a gift you give yourselves. When one of the things you mentioned micro moments. I too am a big fan of that. So if you and I are saying the same thing, a micro moment is literally like a teeny habit, and you might string 8 of them together. I will share for myself. First thing, wake up. I have mindset affirmations I say when I open my eyes. I've trained myself to do that. And then every day it is, out of bed, on the scale, check my metabolism with my metablet, take my morning vitamins, drink water. It's like these, make my bed. Like it is a string of, I haven't counted them, but it's a string of probably 8 things that I just do without thinking. And the difference between doing that and or hitting a snooze button or telling yourself the famous lie, I'll just stay in bed about 10 more minutes and that's going to make me feel better. That's me taking care of, and you and I both know that is not going to make you feel better.
Right. Right. And I think it really sets your day up for just maybe not, stress. I know for me, I really try to not be on my phone in the morning.
Me too.
I really try to focus on what's present. And I do feel, of course, I'm human, and there are mornings where I just lay in bed and I'm just scrolling on my phone or, checking my email or stressed about something. And I do feel like it has a ripple effect throughout my day. Like,
It does.
if these little micro moments, while they are so little and these habits seem so insignificant, they truly are such a pillar throughout our day. I think that they have a huge impact on how we can feel, and how we just move through our day and how we show up differently.
It is true. I would say if anyone is thinking, if someone came upon our conversation because they want to make some change in their life, I'm going to nominate as a first micro habit to implement is to disable snooze on whatever alarm that you use to wake up. Disable it. Most people are using their phones now as their alarm clock. Every phone that I know, you go into your alarm settings, snooze, disable. I know some people are scared to do that because they think that oh no, I'm going to oversleep. And no, you won't. Your subconscious retains that, and it is a change. If anything, they'll probably find they start waking up a little bit before the alarm because their subconscious knows, oops, I don't have that safety net anymore. And then they jump in. But I call the snooze button the dream killer. So anyone that is thinking, what's a micro habit or a micro moment they could start actually tomorrow? If you're using snooze, cut it out. But back to one other quick thought on that. You are exactly right. Because for me, when I start the morning and it was focused on movement, action, DSC, it impacted my environment, my physical self, it engaged my senses and my mindset. You already feel a small sense of accomplishment and you've only been out of bed for 8 minutes. That is different than that lingering, delay in getting out. So we don't need to spend forever on there, but I so agree with you that morning is huge. One question I have for you. So you've got your morning routine. Do you also have habits that you do either throughout the day or at the end of the day? Any habits show up later?
Yeah. So I do have one small habit that I implement my business, and it is very simple, and I don't have anything grandiose, but it's just before I start my day, I write the 3 most important tasks I need to accomplish that day. And that really sets my day up to ensure I focus on those 3 tasks, because as you know, like, I could be called into a last minute showing.
Right.
I have to meet an inspector. And before I know it, my day is all over and the 3 most important things weren't done. So
Right.
I'd say that is huge for me because it really sets my day up for success and just ultimately make sure I'm on track with my overall goals. And then this is throughout the day, I've been trying to work on my posture.
Yes, I
So
have
like,
too.
pulling my shoulders back, stretching my neck. But I feel like honestly it has brought me back to being in the present moment because
Uh-huh.
I will catch myself just even when I'm working on something. I'm like, the way that I carry myself, I'm just being more mindful about that and
Right.
how I want to just move through the day.
Yeah. No, it's funny how that does make such a difference when you create an awareness and you check in on your posture throughout the day and then you just hold yourself in a different way. That actually has a huge ripple effect as well. And as you mentioned, there's studies done that it actually impacts your self-perception. So it has, even though it's a physical movement, it does have an impact on your mental health again. So it is funny. A lot of your habits are tying back to protecting and enhancing clarity of mind, focus, and your self perception and your mental health. So it's funny how it does tend to tie back to that.
Yeah.
What else have you done to solidify habits in your life? I've heard of people stacking habits or piggybacking habits. Is there anything that you've done, like when you want to make sure a new habit is occurring, what steps do you take to ensure that that's going to take effect?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love habit stacking, especially I do that more so in the morning. So, it's every morning when I wake up, I'll oil pool. When I'm walking, I'll drink a huge glass of water with an electrolyte because if anyone's been to Austin, the summers are pretty brutal.
Yes.
So, I want to make sure I set myself up and drink water before I drink coffee. And so I'll do that while I'm on my walk. So habit stacking is a big thing for me. And then also, I'll reward myself every once in a while for showing up for myself. So whether that be going to buy myself a coffee or treat myself to the bookstore, um, I would say those two things keep me on track. And then also, measuring my improvements. So
Okay, good.
more so, I would say this is more so in regards to business, but when I'm tell myself, okay, I'm going to be showing up on social media more, I start tracking, okay, how has my engagement been? How did this
Right.
reel perform? And that gives me the motivation to continue to show up.
That's a key point. You're right. Because let's use that example. If you tell yourself you're going to show up in social media more and you're not looking at the results of it, and you're just like, all right, I'm going to post 3 times a week and I'm going to go through my feed 10 minutes a day and I'm going to make sure I'm paying attention to the most important people that I know. And then you're not tracking the results, it can have a feeling that you're just on a hamster wheel and that it's not having any impact. But when you see that impact, it recommits you to doing the habit.
Absolutely.
Speaking about work, as a realtor and as the member of Coco and team, and you guys are practicing out of Keller Williams, Northwest Austin,
Mhm.
Texas, right? What habit do you think has had the biggest impact on your success as a realtor? I know that's a big question, but I'm just curious, what's the first one that comes to mind?
The first one that comes to mind, I think, is just genuinely caring about every client that I interact with, whether it be, like for example, I just onboarded a client and I don't do very many rentals.
Hmm.
I primarily focus on helping homeowners buy or sell. But I had a friend of a friend who reached out who was kind of in a desperate situation, who needs to find a new place to live because her and her partner broke up. And I think it's at the end of the day just like genuinely caring about people and like making the
Right.
time. And I think that's a big component of it. I work on a team with my mom, and we primarily, a lot of our clientele, they speak Spanish. I would say 50% of our clients speak Spanish.
Mhm.
It is so fulfilling, and it's a lot of work because there is that language barrier. So oftentimes we are meeting with our clients and we're with them, we're like next to them with the application set up, and we're translating every single point. And it's, obviously it takes a lot more work, but it's so fulfilling because, last year, for example, I had a client who he was the youngest client I've ever worked with, and he was buying a home for him and his family. So I think what has made, our business so successful is that we generally genuine.
Yes. And that is I believe that's a natural inclination that you enhance through the habit of seeing your customer first as a person
Mhm.
and say, like, not as a number.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that's how you enhance that. So I know that the beauty of that is your customers feel it, they see it, and it really impacts their entire process, whether, like you said, whether they're buying or selling, or they need to lease a property, if they have an emergency situation. I think one of the reasons your team has such a high rate of repeat clients and referrals is because people feel that, oh, Coco knows me. Coco cares about me, and she's going to take care of me and my family. While she's doing that, she's going to fill in the blank, sell a house, help us buy an investment, lease this property, find us a place to live, right? So they know that you're seeing them as a person first.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's another area where I didn't know I was going to do this when we started the conversation. But if somebody was listening and again, they just are looking for what is that micro moment? What is that small thing I could do today that may shift where they currently are? We'll talk about our industry for a minute. If there's a real estate agent out there right now, maybe things have gone sideways or a couple of deals fell apart, or maybe a client that they thought was a sure thing turned out to be a sure not, and they're facing that disappointment and wondering, yeah, out of all the habits in the world, what could I do right now that could give me some immediate relief? I believe this is one. Would you agree that if someone just stops and says, hold on, I am going to make sure that I genuinely am curious about each client and each individual, if it's a couple or a family, and that I am going to prioritize that before any of their actual real estate needs.
Hmm.
I think that can change, that can create some immediate relief that they would feel.
Yeah, and I think, when sometimes when, maybe there's a little bit of desperation, or like you feel like, oh, my business isn't where it needs to be. You're kind of constantly looking for new business, which is correct and true, but also like not focusing on what's in front of you and like who has already maybe raised their hand, or, who you can help, who you've already cultivated a relationship with. So I think also focusing on that as well.
I think so too. Yeah. And now that you mentioned that, what we were just talking about, they can start with their current pipeline, their current clients, and the people who, have maybe said they're going to do something in a few months. And I think one of the ways to do that is to actually call them or reach out to them and make the reach out. Let's say it's a buyer. Avoid the temptation to reach out and say, like, Coco, I found another house for you to see. Call and say, Coco, I want to check in on you. How's everything going?
Hmm.
And connect with them on that human level first. And that can help to solidify a relationship or heal a relationship if there was some fracture occurring.
Exactly. Like when I reach out to my clients, it's very much, for the most part, it's not real estate related. It's just me
Right.
saying, hey, I was just in your neighborhood. Like, I hope you're doing well. Or, hey, I saw that this restaurant is opening up close to you. Like, you know, just checking in. Hope you're doing well. Are you
It's
happy in
the
your house? Are you ready to sell? Like it's.
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. Where have you seen habits that you may focus mainly on business, but how have habits shown up maybe even in your regular life? Does it show up very much in other places, or how does it show up? Is there
Yeah, I guess in my personal life, I would say the main thing would be my morning routine in regards to just, taking care of myself. My husband and I, we have a weekly routine of going on a date night so we can ensure that
Excellent.
we, connect with each other. We're both wildly independent, which is great and beautiful, but also at a fault. We can be in our own worlds and, not connecting. So I think it can show up in that way. But I would say, yeah, those are the main two sort of habits where
Like
I
the
see.
anchor points that
Yeah, the
keep
anchor
you in a
point.
good
Yeah,
rhythm.
yeah, yeah. I would say those are the two anchor points for me.
You and I are talking mainly about positive habits. We
Hmm.
did mention that snooze button habit. And
Hmm.
we're mainly talking about positive habits. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't recognize is humans are creatures of habit. That phrase is a phrase for a reason, right?
Yes.
And all of us are an accumulation of repeated habits over and over. And unfortunately, if you are not with intentionality and forethought, deciding which habits you're going to strengthen, you can fall into very negative habits. And unfortunately, in our society, sometimes negative habits are actually labeled as self care or good habits, right? And they sabotage you. And it's very disappointing. It's very sad when you see it because you see that someone thinks they're moving themselves forward, and sometimes they're either staying status quo or they're actually losing ground in
Hmm.
whatever area it might be.
Hmm.
Do you know of any way, because I believe you've read a few books on habits, do you know any way that if someone is not progressing and they feel as if they're doing the right thing, or they know they actually have the conscious awareness that they have bad habits, do you know of any technique that someone could use that would allow them to start choosing better habits?
I think so. I'm very much like this in that in the past, if I want to change something, sometimes I go the extreme other way and I'm so intense about something, and then as soon as I fall off I just all of a sudden give up.
Right,
But I think a lot of it is just starting small. And so I think that, if somebody is trying to form a habit or better themselves, it's really identifying what small thing can they do to set themselves up towards a better habit. And I think you and I have kind of talked about this as far as like, setting up my overall goals for the year. And I've kind of come to the realization of like when I have a ton of goals, I get overwhelmed and then I don't do them. And
right.
so, like, really dialing down of like, what is the most important goals that I can focus on? It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. It can be just as simple as, let's say I do want to start working out, for example. It's not, okay, tomorrow I'm going to run a mile. It's, I'm going to walk around the block,
Right.
once. So I think, we live in a very microwave society here,
Yes, we do.
and we want to be either experts or perfect at whatever task or new thing that we decide we want to do. And I don't think that that is I don't think that's the case. I think that there's just everything takes time. It takes a lot of repetition, and yeah, I think it's okay if it does take us time to get us.
Where you're going.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny you mentioned a marathon. Reminded me of a movie I watched called Brittany Runs a Marathon. And she was a young lady that life was pretty much in chaos. Issues at work, relationship dissolved. She wasn't taking care of herself. I believe she was couch surfing at a friend's apartment, like think just like melee.
Hmm.
And one day, out of shape, just like really not in a great place. Family actually enabling the behavior to a degree because they all expected that's how she was, and they just were allowing, they were like, well, we still love you and you can be like that. One day she's like, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. I believe she was even hungover. Like it's actually based on a real story. She just grabbed the sneakers in her house and shorts and a t-shirt she had, not designed for running. She put them on and she went outside and she told herself she was going to run to the end of her block and literally started from there. And it's funny, just when you said that about simplify, you don't have to run a marathon tomorrow. You can start by just going for a walk for 5 minutes. That popped in my mind. If any, that is I won't give any spoilers. It is not quite as clear cut as it seems that it might be. Good movie to watch if you're looking for some inspiration in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But I would agree with you, and I've been a coach now for a long time, and I definitely agree. Start small. If you're in sales and you're behind on your goal, you're going to get further ahead if you say to yourself, you know what, for the next 45 days, I'm going to make one more call every day. Yeah, so starting with just that one more approach, instead of saying, that's it. Tomorrow, I'm going to go in and I'm going to cover my gap, in 2 hours. Like that, you're setting yourself up like that. And sometimes the intensity is good for being consistent and making it happen. But sometimes if you go over intense, you bro out and then you burn out.
Yeah.
So just you'll that oh this is such an old example, but it's that slow and steady wins the race. So if you very
Yes.
steadily figure it and do it, you're going to come out ahead.
Well,
I
and
know a
I
lot of
think
people. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, and I think like when you show, like sometimes, at least for me, like if I show up with that intensity, yeah, you're like you said, I can burn out pretty easily, and then I get frustrated with myself because I'm like, I've given all this effort, and why am I not, better? And I mean, I just even like an example of this would be there's this Spotify playlist of affirmations that I listen to every morning, and it's like 5 minutes, but it's just basically it's like life is not happening to me, it's happening for me, or
Right.
it's just like simple affirmations like that. But what's interesting is like when I have to break really hard news, whether like a deal, somebody's backing out of a contract, or like there's some sort of not ideal news I have to break or solve or whatever. I feel like that daily affirmation playlist has really helped me just be like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. It's all gonna
Right.
work out, and it's helped me show up in a more calm state.
I think that's great. And then you're able to, in our industry, it's so critical that we are able to truly listen. So when you're in that calm state, listen at a much higher level. And then your calmness also will be reassuring to your client. So they're able to listen. You know what I'm talking like if someone is just in a very high emotional state, our ability to receive is minimized. So it's very critical and I'm glad that you're doing that. I want to give one other little practical tip. If somebody wants to, especially incorporate some mindset work, piggyback it on top of something that you already do without fail. I'm going to make a very broad assumption that anyone that's an adult listening to this brushes their teeth every morning. Like the way I say it, you wouldn't leave the house without brushing your teeth unless it was on fire, right? So if you know, right, if you're sitting there right now and you're like, I am ready to truly choose my mental state and thoughts every morning, piggyback it on top of brushing your teeth. So as soon as you start brushing your teeth, you start mentally saying your affirmations. As soon as you're finished brushing your teeth, say at least 5 out loud, right? So you're much more likely to do it when you piggyback it on top of something you know you would do. Many people also do it to when they're getting dressed. Now, I will say, post COVID, not everyone is getting dressed in the same manner as before. So that one may not be as solid. And then don't forget the evening. The morning is the superstar. However, where does your morning begin? The night before,
Yeah.
so create an evening ritual or a 30 minutes before you go to bed habit so that you're giving yourself the benefit of bookending the day with that power of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any I think you mentioned that you read the Atomic Habits. and that really had a big impact on allowing you to identify micro moments and work more things in a very natural manner. So is that's something you would advise if someone's looking to add more of
Yeah,
that freedom through habits? They could find that with Atomic Habits.
yeah, I've read that. I've listened to that book multiple times, and the reason why I like it is because also, James Clear is very much like he's like, we're human, we make mistakes. It's like it's okay if, obviously here are the steps to take to create a habit. At the end of the day, we're also human, and it's okay if you make a mistake. And
Right.
I loved that tonality to it because it sometimes these books can be like that everything must be perfect, and it's like,
That's right. Yeah.
all or nothing. So I appreciate that book because it really laid out it very clearly and recognizes that, you're a human, and if you mess up, you start all over, and it's okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because that's one of the things when I make a mistake, you've known me long enough, you've probably heard me say this. I'll say, well, proving I'm human right now, yeah, and still take responsibility for whatever it is that I've done. But it is part of what makes us human, and it's part of what makes relationships interesting and challenging and worthwhile, right? So it's okay. It really does make it where it's okay if you went 36 days making your bed every morning and then on the 30th you forgot. Okay, that's all right. No biggie.
Yep.
Do it when you remember. Do it the next morning. Just get right back on. Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. I know that this has given you freedom, and it's given you the freedom to grow and continue to have success in your real estate sales with Coco and team. And the other thing it's done for you and your husband, so for your family in particular, I believe that your habit stacking and your habits have allowed you to have the great success you've had investing in real estate, flipping real estate. So you have rentals, you're building your rental portfolio, and you're flipping properties. And you're not only doing that in Texas, but you have even expanded those efforts into New Mexico, which New Mexico, I think both of us really, we just love that state. It's absolutely beautiful. So I appreciate you sharing that with me and having this conversation. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, and of course, I'm going to have all of your contact information in the description, but if someone wanted to reach out, what is your favorite platform? Is there an easy way where people can reach you?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite, most social platform is Instagram.
Okay.
It's
What's your Instagram handle?
Hello Coco Marie.
Very good. So, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think just, whether it's in your business or your personal, just identifying the super small habit that you can start today that will then have the ripple effect. And it's very much a slow burn, but has a big impact.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. This has been Coco Marie Vargas, my guest on the Interstate, and I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.